Hello everyone and welcome to this week's tutorial. This will be part number 20 from Dubious positions and how to attack them. This would also be a central cannon versus the screen house defense. Red would play the third pawn advancement variation. So without further ado, let us begin. Central cannon, screen house defense, and again red plays p3 plus 1. Black will counter likewise, and red will go for the 5-7 cannons very early in the game. Now this is considered orthodox. Unlike the previous board, black had played e7 plus 5. There are subtle differences which we'll see. Now in this board, black would play a4 plus 5. This move represented a change in the order of the moves, and this would be a test for black. Now, black moved the advisor to consolidate his defense as he adopted a wait-and-see approach to the situation. Now, if he chose to play h3 plus 2, it will weaken his defense on the center, and this can cause possible there will be consequences that black must face, because red will play h3 plus 4 and threaten to capture the central pawn by force. So that is why h3 plus 4 is not a good idea, and black should consolidate his defense before playing h3 plus 2. And in this board, this would be the dubious move that will be discussed. Now, black had already consolidated his central file, and an attack on the central file with h3 plus 4 would seem to be not a wise choice. Now, the sound move or the recommended move in this situation would be to play h8 plus 9, whereby red would develop his left flank for balanced development of the pieces, and he could then counter black's whatever move that black would make very accurately. The pace would slow down slightly, but red can control the initiative very firmly in hand. Now with h3 plus 4, there was a dubious position, and black would attack with c8 plus 3. Now this is a forcing move, and immediately red will face pressure on how to deal with the situation of the horse. Now at this point in time, there were two variations that were discussed. The first would be h4 plus 3, and the second would be h4 minus 3. So let us go through the first variation. Now it would appear that red would have gained initiative because he had moved the horse across the river and now forced the cannon to move, because the chariot will now be threatening to capture the cannon, and red will gain material in this exchange. Black would now advance his cannon one move. Now on the surface, it would appear that black had lost a move in this situation. However, this this resulting situation is actually in black's favor, because red's left flank had not been developed. So with this move, black would now threaten to capture the cannon at the pawn and then attack the elephant for check and trade chariots and gain material in the process. So c8 plus 1 is actually a very good move, and the loss in tempo is actually not the case. And to prevent p7, to prevent c8 equals to 3, red would usually play p7 plus 1, and again it would appear that red was having a good time because he was prepared to attack the horse over here, which is unprotected. Now if red sought stability and played h8 plus 9, it will be too late to make this move, because black could, instead of playing h3 plus 2, black could now play h3 plus 4 to attack red's central pawn, which is now left unguarded. Now 9 equals to 8, central cannon, and at this point in time, black's pieces are unflexible, Whereas red's pieces are in the open, there's much room for further development. The chariot is free to move. Red's horse will still need p9+1 to move, and the cannon does not have any obvious target to attack. So black could have seized the initiative at this point in time, and that is why h8+9 is not a good idea. With p7+1, black would play h3+4, again threatening to attack the pawn. Red would defend perfectly, and black would do likewise, and with this move, the chariot can be developed as a kingside chariot. And we can see that after a span of 11 moves, black would have moved two major pieces across the river into red's territory. Although red had an extra pawn that crossed the river, this horse cannot do much at this point in time. And although the pawn was crossed, it cannot move to the red file, which is guarded by the chariot. So black is faster in developing material and would have the initiative in this situation. So that is why h4+3 would not be a good idea. Now, in the second variation, red would cleverly retreat his horse. Now, although this would result in loss of tempo, but in this situation, it would be considered to be a wise choice because red would accept a compromise, but at least his formation would be stable. And if red retreated, black would also retreat his cannon. Now, although both pieces have advanced and retreated, we can see that the red horse had moved back to its original position while black had now stationed a cannon on the riverbank. Now this is a very powerful cannon because if red tried to develop the horse and then the chariot as a file chariot, black would have h3+2 to attack the chariot. So that is why red would usually play r9+1 to develop his chariot as a rank chariot. Now this is red's way of trying to gain back lost in tempo. Now, can red attack with p7+1 as discussed in the first variation A? Let us see. Black would still continue to attack h3+4, forcing a trade of material. Now c2+3 can also be played, but after trading material, again the horse had moved, so black would now capture the central pawn. So the pawn both colors would have 4 pawns, but as can be seen at this point in time, red would only have moved the central cannon, while his chariot and 2 horses have not moved at all. Although this horse had advanced and retreated, but the loss in tempo is now very great. Black will have an easy time ahead. So that is why this is a very good example on the importance of gaining tempo in your attack. So that is why p7+1 is not a good idea. Instead, red tried to be aggressive with r9+1, and black would now develop a consolidated central file and allow for r1 equals to 4. Red would try to occupy this very important line before black can do so, but now black would play h3+2 to attack the horse, forcing it to the h file, and then instead of playing r1 equals to 4, black can consider to attack in this manner. Red would retreat his cannon, and black would guard this very important pawn rank. Now this, with the chariot protecting the central pawn, black will now be prepared to offer trade of chariots if need be. Now black should not jump the gun and play p1+1, because after trading pawns, red will simply play r2+4 to protect the pawn, and the red pieces would now be in the open, and black would not have gained much in this exchange. So that is why p1+1 is not as good as r1+3. And if r1+3 are being played, this chariot cannot move here, so Usually red would play r2 plus 4 to prevent a blockade, h2 plus 1, and black would push the pawn across the river. Now, although the situation is standoffish, but black could have pushed the pawn across the river, and there are many things he could do, for example c2 plus 3, etc. This horse would also have much potential for growth. It can move away and then pawn advance. So there are many options for black, whereas if we were to look at red's case, there's not much that could be done. So in this situation, the key point, or the main reason that red was left in such a plight, was because he had attacked too early. Now this would go against the tenets of Xiangqi opening theory, whereby there's not a clear target to attack. The central pawn is not a good idea because two horses were protecting it, and red could only move the horse here. And as can be seen from the variation, in variation A, the horse could not do much towards the end. So let us review the game from the eyes of black. Central cannon, screen house defense, third pawn advancement, likewise, and red will play c7, c8 equals 7 for the 5-7 cannons. Black would defend a4 plus 5. Now, usually, instead of c8 equals 7, red will play h8 plus 9 before making this move, but this change in the order of moves was a challenge for black, and he must know how to counter correctly. So a4 plus 5, and this would be the dubious move, or this problematic move for red. Once the horse was moved, this chariot will not be protected, and as can be seen at this point in time, as I mentioned earlier, this horse will not have any good intersections for further development. c8 plus 3, black immediately counters with c8 plus 3, and variation A, h4 plus 3 was played, but black had other ideas with c8 plus 1. And because the horse had not moved, c8 plus 3 would constitute a very powerful attack. b7 plus 1 was red's aggressive counter, but the horse would simply move to the riverbank, and red would allow red to advance a pawn, but he would gain tempo in developing the major pieces. And as can be seen, black is much faster in developing his major pieces, while red would have fallen behind greatly in terms of development. Variation B, h4 minus 3, red will retreat his horse to target the cannon, and instead of moving back, black would now play c8 minus 1 to patrol the riverbank. r9 plus 1 was red's attempt at trying to do for balanced development of the pieces. e3 plus 5, h3 plus 2 to attack, p1 plus 1. Oh, these are quite commonly seen moves, and black cuts the pawn rank. Again, p1 plus 1 would be a hasty choice because he will not be able to gain much after this exchange. And black would have pushed the pawn across the river. Now, this board is quite good. There are many subtleties that must be appreciated, but please do go through the board a few more times and compare the various positions. So in this situation, at this point in time, black would have seized the initiative and managed to gain a very desirable position. So if you like the work that I've been doing, please do subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up for the video. Thank you.